Hi everyone, my name is Professor Coleman and I will be presenting to you the Social Studies NES Test Prep Explore More. So let's get started with the agenda. Today we're going to cover the Subtest 1 format, testing tips, social studies, what constitutes social studies, the breakdown, and the competencies. I'm going to talk to you about Google Classroom and how you can get all the materials that I am going to be presenting today. And then we'll end with those good well wishes. So let's move on to the Subtest 1 format. So Subtest 1 includes your language arts and your social studies. The test format is multiple choice. Number of questions is approximately about 75 questions, and you get about 90 minutes to complete it. So when you think about that, I'm going to give you the breakdown between social studies and language arts. The breakdown is 38% of the questions are going to be social studies, 62% are going to be the ELA. So thinking about that, you have 28.5 of the 75 questions. So 28, give or take one, that will be social studies emphasis. And that gives you about 35 minutes to complete the social studies portion, which if you roughly estimate, it's just a little bit over a minute for each question. So you really want to practice and study, and that's what I'm going to help you do, is help you prepare for this test so that you are ready to take the challenge on forward. So now let's go on and look at what constitutes social studies. So social studies is made up of U.S. history. You have culture, geography, economics, world history, historiography, and government. So I'm going to discuss what these are. By the way, if you don't know what historiography is, it's the actual literature, the written word, the stories behind the people. And I know it sounds crazy because it seems like it all is in history, but history really does have broken down sections. So this is the NES Social Studies breakdown of how the questions are organized. The big portion of your questions here are history, U.S. history, and then the historiography or the world history. So that's about 25% for each of those sections. Geography and culture is 19% of the questions. Government will have another 19%, and then your economics will be made up of 12% of those questions. I believe that this is why many students find it difficulty in studying for this test, because of all of the different topics that incorporate social studies. So what I'm going to do is first let's look at what type of learner you are, and that'll help you actually prepare. So are you a visual learner, someone who remembers people's faces better than their names? You enjoy learning through YouTube videos. You're probably at least partially a visual learner, so take advantage of finding the information and using different sources to help you learn. So take detailed notes, mind maps, as you're watching videos or YouTube videos on the NES test prep, and I am going to supply you with the links to these videos. Take some notes, draw some graphics, and get the main gist of the content. Dates in general are important, but you don't have to memorize specific exact dates. You just need to know what time periods these events occur. Use flashcards. Quizlet is great for creating flashcards. In fact, they already have some flashcards created for the NES test prep. So what I'm going to show you right now is an example of this video for the test prep put out by Mometrics. It is on YouTube, and I will provide you the link at the end of the video. I will show you how to get it. But just to play it, it has all of the content areas that you will be taking for your NES prep. So you'll see that it'll start with science, and I'm going to forward to social studies just to give you a gist of what is offered.
Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process used by plants in the Declaration of Independence. So on July 4th, 1776, all 13 colonies, all representatives from those 13 colonies, to be known as states, ratified the Declaration of Independence, which declared that King George had violated rights of American colonists.
So as you can see, they provide you with some notes, some lectures, some information. Feel free to take that information and make it into your own type of thinking map the best way that you know how. Now, if you're an auditory learner, then you're going to look for audio recordings or, again, videos. You can still use those. Verbalize what you've learned. Record it. Even when you have documents that you find, put it in that text-to-speech reader and read it and have the computer read it to you and take notes that way. So knowing how you learn best will help you also prepare. The other part that is put out by the NES Testing Center is they give you steps on how to actually prepare for their actual test. So step 1, test your content knowledge. Read and test. So what they mean by read is you want to read through the entire test frame. And when you're reading through the entire test frame, you'll get an idea of what's going to be expected of you. You want to look at the descriptive statement, and we're going to look at one and see how it's all set up. We're going to look at the descriptive statement, and then you want to see the examples of the content cover, and then you'll take the sample test questions. So the best way to think about it is as you have your subject, your specific section, the standard, and then the objective or the learning goal. So here we can see that it is social science. That's our test, but that'll be our subject, right? The content or the specific domain is historiography and world history. In competency, it'll tell us, underline the historical concepts, the terms, sources, and perspectives, and research skills. And then it'll give us the descriptive statement. So I'm going to show you this in a larger picture. So here's a larger picture I was talking about. The descriptive statement here says distinguish between primary and secondary sources, historical information, and evaluate their credibility and reliability. So that is, if you think about it, your overall goal. How do you know that you're ready to take this test? You know you can do this. So then once you think, okay, I'm ready to do this, look at the example questions. So here's one of the test questions. Which of the following bibliographic citation identifies a primary historical source? And then you look through them and test your knowledge, and then they'll have provide you answers. So this at least gives you a gist of what they're actually looking for you to do from this goal, this learning goal. So the descriptive statement is really your learning goal. So I'm not going to read through all of the competencies because you can do that on your own time and break it down to what areas you really need to study in. I will provide you some information for these competencies. So I'm just going to show you this document. This is found in the NES website, and I also will have a link to the actual document to save you some time. Here is the content to social studies. You have understand fundamental concepts related to the government. So this is the overall content area, and then here are your goals. You need to be able to recognize basic structures, functions, purposes of government, including the constitutional principles and democratic foundations of the government. So if you go through this in detail and break it down for yourself in an outline form of, okay, what do I know about the government? What do I understand the Constitution? Do I know the three branches of government and their functions? Demonstrate the knowledge and principle of democratic civic involvement. So voting, the rights, look at the Declaration of Independence, look at your civil liberties, demonstrate knowledge and organization of politics in the world, characteristics of different forms of government. So when they're talking about the different forms of government, it's not just democratic, but you want to look at communist, what is in, you want to look at all those governments, and I'll give you more information on that. I just want you to see how it's broken down. So first one is understand fundamental concepts related to the government economics, and then they have sample questions. Understand fundamental concept and major developments related to the U.S. and world history. Let me go to understand fundamental concept related to geography and methods of social studies inquiry. So there's those competencies and the test question, a sample. And that is pretty much what they have on this document here. And I will provide you all of this information. It seems really basic, but there's a lot of knowledge that you need to have. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind, you're going to have to be a critical thinker. You're going to have to think critically here. That means study for the test so that you can make a reasonable guess if you need to do that. You can problem solve those questions, and you can then evaluate and make the best choice possible. During this time, if we were live, I would hand out a handout for you that has all the different eras. However, since we're doing this online, I will provide you that handout, and it'll all be in the Google Classroom, but I'm going to show you how it's broken down. So there are 15 eras. So let's go on. And here we can see a timeline of some of the eras that we're going to speak about here. Stone Age, Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and the Middle Ages, then Industrial Age, and of course, the Information Age. The document that you will have is pretty much an outline. That means that there's a lot of information that would go into the Stone Age, but it gives you a brief overall of what events or topics are in that age. So the Stone Age consists of the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, and the Neolithic time frame. That is Stone Ages, right? Paleolithic is, I guess you would say, the old Stone Age, and the new Stone Age would be the Neolithic. It's really about early man. So what Homo species lived there, what are the, you know the different developments of man, the tools that they used. Then the Bronze Age comes right after, and then the Iron Age really were named because of the tools that were being used during that time. And then we move into the second era, which is early civilization. Farming starts to happen now. So they don't have to be nomads anymore. The people can now settle. And where would they settle? Next to that, rivers and lakes and water so that they can farm and plant. From there, we move on to the third era, giant empires and classic traditions of major religions, expanding zones of change and encounters, intensify hemispheric interactions. So all of this section here is really sixth grade history. Now, if you think, well, I'm not going to be teaching sixth grade, that's fine. But as an elementary school teacher, you need to be really well versed from K all the way up into sixth grade, or to K8, I should say. So here, look at the era 3. Think about China. How did China break apart? What dynasty collapsed because of that? Look at the Han dynasty. The collapse of the Roman Empire. When did that occur? So that was in like 496, CE. And then we go into China again. What was not restored to its early glory until the emergence of the what dynasty? So know the dynasties, know about also Western Europe, civilizations, China, Rome, all of that was occurring during that time. We go into our next one here. We have the emergence of the first global age and colonization and settlement. So that 6th era is really the beginning of exploration. No more than just Christopher Columbus as the explorer. Know about, Hernan Cortez, the Spanish explorers, the British explorers, and the French explorers. You want to capture all of that knowledge. Know the sea routes that they took. Why was that important? The spread of Christianity. Then we go into colonization and the American Revolution. So you can start to see the birth of the United States in that 7th and 8th era. The next 3 eras are expansion and reform, Civil War and Reconstruction, and the development of the Industrial Revolution. So now we are in the heart of the American history. No, you do not have to know dates, but you do want to be familiar with important dates, like, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. What time frame was the Civil War? You also want to know, so here on the Uncle Tom's Cabin, that is a book. That literary book would be considered historiography because it is part of the history and it is the real life story of slaves. Well, it's not a real life story, but it's the portrayal of slavery during that time. So those are types of documents that you want to know that were being published. You don't have to have read them, but know what they're about. You also have the expansion, to know what the westward expansion was, the Trail of Tears, Lewis and Clark. Why did we expand west? Why didn't we just stay in those colonies? Why do we keep growing? Industrial Revolution, the assembly line, how did the steel industry, how did this all change America? And then we go on to our next 2, the emergence of the modern Americas. So now we have the Progressive Movement, World War I. No, not just the time period, but one of the main reasons of why and who was primarily involved in the early stages of World War I. The Great Depression and World War II. There's the time frames, know the presidents in both of those eras, and know those big important days. So, of course, December 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor, and then how we settled how the war was ended, what was the settlement. So know that information. And the last 2 eras are post-war. So everything after World War II into the 70s, that's the post-war United States and the beginning of the Cold War. So please know that you will be asked about the Cold War. I've heard from several students who have told me that they have had questions on the Cold War. So know who was president, what it actually meant. And then, of course, 9/11 and terrorism, any of that can be in that present contemporary. This next section here is additional test sample or resources. Like I said, you will have all of these links provided to you. Their Quizlet links, their test previews, and of course the YouTube videos. And now I want to get you to see, let me Here we go. If you can join the Google Classroom, and I'm going to show you why it is to your benefit. So you're going to go into googleclassroom.com. Hopefully most of you have been on there before. Sign in with your Gmail account. For example, you and whatever school you are at .edu or your own Gmail. At the top, click add, and then I believe it's on the top right hand corner. You're going to then join the class and enter the code. And the code is right here. F, V as in Victor, G, H, Y, C, and the J as in Jack. Okay, I will show you this again in a bit, but let me go on into Google Classroom. So if you're in my Google Classroom, you will see here the stream, classwork, people, and grades. There's obviously no grades because this is not assignments, but in the classwork, I'm going to go ahead and go into that. That is probably where I recommend that you go into, because in the classwork, everything's broken down. For example, videos. You want to go into a video. There's NES social science practice and a free NES elementary education practice with study guides. So those are 2 YouTube videos. You can just click on them and you will be able to go there. PowerPoint. Definitely this PowerPoint will be in the Explore More PowerPoint. It'll have the date. Well, it'll say fall 2020. And then social studies competencies. So this is the material I was showing you when I showed you all the competencies. You can just click on that and it'll take you right to the competencies. The Explore, I'm sorry, that's the PowerPoint. So then GCU library resources. So important for you to know that our library at GCU offers a lot of resources that you are welcome to use. So hopefully this Google Doc will not take long opening. I will go back to it. The ERA outline and example questions is on here as well. So let me go ahead and show you that. Okay, so here is the eras that I showed you on the PowerPoint, and at the bottom, there's some sample questions. Never hurts to have some sample questions in there. If you would like to know the answers, no problem. You can go ahead and on here, take the quiz. Take the practice quiz. It'll give you the answers right away. They are on a Google Doc, I'm sorry, on a Google Forms, and you'll get your answers and you can study, give you an idea of the type of questions that will be on the NES. Going back to the GCU library, you can select these links and it'll give you the textbooks. They have a lot of different materials. So they have all of these different textbooks that you can actually sign out. And you could probably preview them. If you want to buy them, that's great, but preview them first and decide, hey, ask your friends, what book did you use? What do you suggest? Before you buy, come and preview them at the GCU library. Okay, so going back to Google Classroom, anything else, suggested outline? Oh, I should show you the suggested outline. So I created an outline that I believe, let me see here, explore more outline. Yeah, where I broke it down with the eras, but I think it's a little bit better of how our eras go into the actual Explore More. So you have American history and then the eras that will go in there. To world history, the eras that will be in there, some different points that you might want to study, like monarchy, dictatorship, totalitarian. Those are the types of government I was telling you that you needed to know. Anarchy, ancient Egypt, ancient India, China, the Stone Age, all of that is world. Economics, barter. So these are different vocabulary words that you might want to know for those subject sections. Command economy, market economy, traditional economy, and the definitions are on there. And then geography, you want to look at Mesopotamia, that is located in the Middle East. The Mediterranean climate, the summers, latitude, longitude, prime meridian, equator. So these are some of those words. Also, different religions in different places, worshiping gods, Sumerians. All of that would be under the geography. So this is all in Google Classroom. So it is stored in there. You can use it at any time. If you need my help for any reason, please go ahead and email me. So here is my email, and I would love to hear from you. Anything I could do before you take the test, but I would love to hear from you after you take your test. Any ways that we can update this video, any helpful advice that you have for the upcoming students, please let me know. So with that, I end this video presentation, and I want to wish you all well wishes and many blessings on this journey. And hopefully by the end of your test, you are feeling just like thunder here, because you got this. Have a great day and many blessings.